Hi, this is Stuart Albertson, and I want to talk to you about the burden of proof. Every beneficiary that files a lawsuit in California to contest a trust or to have a will contest or to have any type of probate litigation, they carry the burden of proof. In other words, they have to prove at the time of trial that they're more right than the other side is to win. Well, many people are confused about what the burden of proof is. A lot of people think that the burden of proof is really high, that it's the criminal standard that they see on TV. They watch these criminal shows and they hear that it's got to be beyond a reasonable doubt in order to win a case. Well, that's not how it works in California in civil cases, in probate cases, in trust litigation cases. There we have what we call the preponderance of the evidence. And we sound ridiculous when we stand up and we talk about the preponderance of evidence in court, but what preponderance of evidence is, it simply means my side has to be just a little bit more right than the other side's story. So I like to say, if you have the scales of justice in front of you, if you were to put all of our facts on one of the scales and you put all the other side's facts on the other scales, and the court determines that our facts are just a teeny bit more right than the other side, the law in California says that we've met our burden of proof, the preponderance of the evidence. We are more likely right than the other side, and the court must find in our favor, or the jury must find in our favor. So we have to be just 50.01% more right than the other side. I like to think about a football analogy. If you had football players and the rule was you had to get just the skin of your nose across the 50-yard line to win the game, in court, that's all you have to do. You just have to get 50.001% to win that case, and that's where the preponderance of evidence comes in. So it's not difficult to meet the preponderance of evidence, and it's something that you have to talk to juries about to make sure that they understand what the burden of proof is, what the standard is that you have to meet in proving your case. And we also want to talk to judges about that to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to burden of proof. There are two exceptions that we need to keep aware of. The first is the clear and convincing evidence standard, and the second is the burden shift in probate cases. Let me first talk about clear and convincing evidence. The probate code and also the code of civil procedure in some of the statutes requires a higher level to the burden of proof than the preponderance of evidence. Remember, the preponderance of evidence is just a little bit more right and we win. Clear and convincing makes it a little bit more. We're not quite sure, but maybe it's 70% or 80% out of 100 rather than just a little bit over 50% out of 100 for the preponderance of the evidence. So clear and convincing evidence is something that we generally need to have a stronger amount of evidence to show that we're right. Generally speaking, that's documentary evidence. Documentary evidence will normally rise to the level of being clear and convincing. So when we have those clear and convincing evidence standard issues, we do have to be a little more careful in how we present the case to make sure that we are really meeting that burden to win. The other area that comes up is the burden shift, and that's simply in undue influence cases, for example. We are allowed to shift the burden of proof. We bring a case against somebody who got mom and dad to change a trust and give them everything and keep it away from their brothers and sisters. We represent the brothers and sisters that didn't get anything, and so we file the case. And if we can show certain elements and meet those elements, we can actually shift our burden of proof to the other side. And then the other side has to prove that they did not exercise undue influence over mom and dad by getting mom and dad to change the trust and the will. So other than those two exceptions, though, the clear and convincing evidence standard and the burden shift, in most of our cases that we bring in California trust and probate litigation, we're going to only be required to prove the preponderance of the evidence, which is we're more likely right just by a hair than the other side, and if we can prove that to the court, then we should win the case.